It's 970 WAMD Aberdeen, and this is the Harford Edge, keeping you on the cutting edge of what's new in Harford County and beyond. I'm Tracy Hart, co-hosting with Bob Mumby. Bob, how you doing this morning?
How you doing, Trace? Can I ask you a favor?
Of course.
Can we listen to another 10 seconds of Booker T?
Of course. I would love to listen to 10 more seconds. All right, do you feel better now, Bob?
That tided me over.
Okay, good. You know, you can always download it to your iPod and listen to it every day if you want to.
Don't press me on the technical. I'm working an engineering board here that I'm still amazed I know what I'm doing here. Or can at least pretend I know what I'm doing.
All right. Well, the Harford Edge is brought to you each week by your Harford County Public Library. Now, today we have the pleasure of interviewing author Dr. Carsonia Whitehead. She has an amazing book that I can't wait to read personally, but we'll be talking about that later after the break. Now, it's that time. It is time for the birthday game.
Oh, I should be speaking. I jinxed myself.
Yeah, well, here, I'll talk about the birthday game in case people aren't familiar with what we're talking about. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Bob here some names whose birthdays fall on today, and he has to tell me how old they are. And if you do better than him, then you have bragging rights, because I got to tell you, Bob's actually really good at this game. So.
And you doubted me.
I did doubt you. I really thought you were cheating, but since I'm doing the names at this point, I believe. I am now a believer.
I am sharing my thought processes as we figure it out.
Yeah, well, and I think that's fascinating the way you do this. So let's get started. All right, you ready, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, this is a rock and roll dynamo who sang "Good Golly, Miss Molly." So Little Richard, how old do you think he is? Now, if you guys can't see, Bob is sitting here counting in the air.
79.
No, but close. 81.
Okay.
He's 81. So now, how were you thinking about that? Because it was obvious you were counting.
He hit the scene in 55, so I figured he was 20. So then I added.
How did you know he hit the scene in 55? You just random.
Because I'm a big music fan.
Okay.
And he was one of the real, real pioneers like Louis Jordan and Chuck Berry, guys like that really founded rock and roll. And I mean, if you ask the Stones, the Beatles, anybody, like Little Richard, as far as vocals and rock
he's
and roll
amazing.
singing,
oh my gosh,
he's one of the ones. And Richard Penniman was his real name, by the way.
Oh really? I did not know that.
Yep.
I wonder if Little Richard was a stage name or if that was something he was called when he was younger.
Interesting. Stevie Wonder used to be Little Stevie Wonder.
See,
because
you never know.
He was a phenom. When he was 13, when he played the harmonica, and he was Little Stevie Wonder.
Very cool. All right, so this next one. I don't know. I wasn't as familiar with this guy. So he's an actor best known for his main role in the television show Malcolm in the Middle. And he plays a child, I think he plays the middle child or whatever, in the TV show. But I was surprised by how old he is.
Frankie Muniz?
Frankie Muniz, yeah. How old do you think he is? As, again, Bob's counting.
15 years ago, he was probably, but what you're saying is probably older at the time. So let's say he was 20, 15 years ago, 35.
Okay, no, he's 28. I didn't realize the show's been around for 15 years, though.
Yeah, and that was Bryan Cranston's.
Okay, so I never watched the show, so I assumed it was in the last couple of years. So he's 28.
Okay.
But he still looks like a young child.
Yeah, you threw me off there. Excellent throw off.
Ooh, but it wasn't done on
purpose.
Poker
player. But that was Bryan Cranston. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
No, I haven't.
You have to. Everyone has to. It's the best series I've ever seen.
I've heard that. It's interesting. You can definitely tell when Breaking Bad's on based on everybody's Facebook posts. Usually it's like, holy cow, I can't believe that happened.
It's just great. It's great. And Bryan Cranston plays one of the leads in it. And Bryan Cranston was the dad in Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, okay.
He was also the dentist in Seinfeld.
Okay, I don't think I remember seeing that Seinfeld, because I did love Seinfeld.
Who took it out. When Elaine said he took it out.
Oh, yes.
On their first date.
Okay.
I could say that because it was on TV.
It was on TV. That's
Okay.
absolutely right. All right, here's for the sports fans out there. Football coach who led the Ohio State Buckeyes to 3 national championship games between 2001 and 2011, winning the title in 2002. Who was the Ohio State football coach? Dun, 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 dun.
Give me his initials. I'm drawing a blank.
JT.
Jim Tressel.
There you go. Good job. How old do you think he is today? See, I keep trying to stump you, and you're unstumpable.
68.
61.
Oh,
So a little bit
he was younger than
he
I
was,
thought when
he was a
started.
young coach.
Okay.
All right, here's another one. This woman played Jane Carter in Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and also appeared in the 2009 Oscar-winning film Precious. But she's more known, unfortunately, for having going through a recent divorce from Robin Thicke.
Not Monique.
No? I'll give you a hint. Her initials are PP. You'll know it as soon as I say it.
Robin Thicke.
Paula Patton.
Of the hourglass figure.
I've never heard that.
She has an hourglass figure.
I will have to check her out next time I see her. Unfortunately, she's played in many films, and yet best known for being Robin Thicke's wife.
34.
38.
Okay.
38. So, all right, here's my fun one that I pulled. Again, usually we pick somebody that is still living so he can guess their age. Now, I picked this person because I just really like this person, or at least I like history, and so it interests me to read his background. His birthday was today. However, he obviously has passed away a long time ago. So the question is how old was he when he passed away? George Armstrong Custer.
George Armstrong Custer, Little Bighorn.
And he was young, which...
Well, he was like, at the age of 24, he was a Civil War general.
Yeah.
That had a lot, he was a West Pointer, and he had nicknames because he had this long gold blonde hair that had curls in it. So let's see, he was 24 in 1864 and 1840.
And again, Bob's going through his
37.
math. Darn, you're really close. 36.
Okay.
He was 36 when he was killed. But think of how much in such a short amount of time, how much he experienced. Just crazy to me.
Well, he was, again, at the age of 24, out of West Point, only 2 years, he was commanding a full regiment.
Could you imagine? I mean, you have kids that are close to that age.
Yeah.
Could you imagine
I love my
them?
son, but and he is 24 now. But can't see him leading a regiment.
Exactly.
And he's great and smart and a wonderful kid. But
it's amazing to me. It's just amazing. So, well, good job, Bob. Hopefully you guys out there did just as well. As I tell you, Bob is just really good at this. So I try every week to stump him, but I obviously don't do so well. So, all right. So let's turn our attention to local news here in Harford County. It's not necessarily local, but it is our Ravens. So what happened yesterday with Haloti getting suspended for 4 games? Basically, he's going to be out for almost the whole season. And
Right.
let's be honest, there's not really going to be much of a postseason for them. So pretty much out for the season.
It's just flabbergasting. And the same thing with Chris Davis on the O's. Did the same thing. It's Adderall. Adderall is either an incredible stimulant, which is the reason it's banned as a rule in the NFL and Major League Baseball, but it's also a valid treatment for ADD and other attention-related issues. And it's easy for these players to get exemptions. Chris Davis got an exemption last year to play
Right.
for it. He didn't apply for the exemption this year, but he kept taking it. And these people, and now not as saying I own it, it's my fault. Yeah, you own it, but you're the anchor of the defensive line, and the Ravens have to win out their last 4 games
Right.
to have a shot. And you just disqualified yourself because you didn't file a few papers?
Well, I agree with if there's rules in place, they should follow the rules. However, I guess I'm a believer. I just don't see that taking Adderall. I don't understand the concept of why it's banned. Yes, it is a stimulant and all that. However, if it's something that a doctor has said, yes, you should take or you need it, I don't understand then why the NFL or Major League Baseball should say, no.
Well, the thing is, they're not saying no. They're saying...
But you have to file paperwork, and
Yeah.
if you are...
And if you don't need it, it's like taking a massive dose of amphetamines.
But why would that be? There's not much of a difference between taking, something like an Adderall and, hitting 5 things a monster or something like that.
Yeah, well...
And yet, I guess I just don't understand why this is
That's
such
a
a
good point.
huge deal. It's different if they're doing cocaine or if they're doing steroids or things that are illegal. Adderall's not illegal. And so then at what point does the NFL and Major League Baseball then take a step back and say, okay, we're not police, judge, and jury. All we are is a sporting organization that makes money. You know?
Right.
And so I guess for me, it's just...
Well, that's a good debate, and I agree with you. But two things on that. First thing, until the rule is changed, he's got to follow it, and it's just stupid not to follow it.
Yeah, that's just laziness or whatever.
It's like this kid who leaked all the government documents. Some say he was noble or heroic for doing it, but if we had everyone in the country deciding when they thought it would be right to leak government secrets that
that's
endanger
that's
our
just
officials.
crazy.
But as long as the rule's there, you got to follow it. Now, to your point, how disgusting is it that this guy gets 4 games for taking Adderall, which they give to
kids,
10-year-old kids?
Yes.
He got twice as long a suspension as the guy who knocked his wife out cold.
Yeah, well, I think at this point the NFL just can't get out of their own darn way.
I think Goodell needs to be fired.
Yeah, I just think that's. I mean, I'll just get round up. So next up, I have to say, this really touched my heart. So as everybody knows, Sheriff Gaylor was elected as the new sheriff in town here in Harford County. But the exiting sheriff, Jesse Bain, wrote this amazing thank you letter to everybody in the public. And, the one quote that was really cool is, "I want to thank the public for believing in me for 42 years and voting me into office for 2 terms." It just shows the character of a person that, again, not being a poor loser, to actually really standing by and being the same person, the whole time through. It really touched my heart.
Yeah, and listen, I support Jeff. I like Jeff. I think he's going to do a great job. I'm rooting for him. I hope he follows some of Jesse's good counsel as far as the things that worked when Jesse was sheriff. But sheriff is one of the things. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing. It never should be.
No, it's about protecting the public.
Right, and I think Jesse did a great job. A lot of people have disagreements with certain things he did. That's always going to be the case. But he really viewed it holistically. And what are the cause of people spending so much time in the detention center? What, all the different connections between crime and the result of it and how people are affected by it. It was very holistic. And that is what public safety is all about. It's not just rounding people up.
Right.
It's not just giving speeding tickets.
Well, it's easy just to round them up and stick them in a box, but at the end of the day, that box gets full, and you have to figure out.
Gets full, and we have crappy reentry programs for these people to deal with their violence issues, their anger issues, their mental health issues. It's easy to say, well, just lock them up. They're criminals, but you're basically ensuring they're going to be criminals for the rest of their life. As long as we just lock these people up without getting to the bottom of it. That's one of the things I admired most about Jesse.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was just a class act to have written that letter, and knowing Jesse personally, he meant every word of it. So big shout out to Jesse for that. Speaking of crimes in the community, we have quite a few of them that happened over the last week. So here is some of the crimes that happened. We got the information from the Dagger. So, first of all, in Forest Hill, there was a garage fire that, come to find out, was a meth lab. And
Speaking of Breaking Bad.
Exactly. Well, here's my problem with it is that now, because of the chemicals that were involved in the meth lab, and that basically knocked out a good portion of all the equipment, the apparatuses, the things that the firefighters wore. They had to get rid of a lot of this stuff because it had chemicals on there that were going to, erode or were really dangerous. So it's not just that these idiots had a meth lab, that they had this fire, that they caused public safety issues. Now they're knocking out what could, this could potentially hurt other people in that if there's fires going on and that they need this equipment, and now that equipment is out of service because of these idiots in the meth lab. I think these people that had this fire, they should pay and get all the equipment. Something should be done. It makes me so angry.
Yeah, and they need to do a hell of a lot more jail time than someone who gets caught smoking crack.
Absolutely, because this is a public safety.
And this stuff is destructive to human bodies.
They were living above it.
And the people who take it too. I mean, you ever see a meth addict?
Oh my God, it's disgusting.
They look like they're 40 years older than they are. Now, if you're a meth addict, I'm pulling for you, and I hope you could pull it together.
Yeah.
But
well, it just really made me mad. So I'm gonna get on my soapbox on that one. So moving on, here's another stupid one. Bel Air Middle School. There was a robbery. Two, I would say kids. They looked like, based on the photos, that they were in their late teens, something like that. Who the heck goes and robs a freaking middle school?
Right.
Like, do you have nothing better to do with your life than to go out and rob a middle school? It floors me.
And they need to be punished. Again,
they absolutely should be.
Again, with the meth lab, these kids that were robbing Bel Air Middle School were white. The meth lab people were white. They need to be punished. They don't.
Throw the damn
book at them. It's not just got to be crack people. And
no.
Let's talk about sentencing and the inequality there, instead of trying to make two people poster children for racism like the national media is doing now, when that is not what the discussion should be about.
No, I agree. Some other things that happened around the county, crime-wise, there was a home invasion in Aberdeen. Can't stress enough, people. Make sure you have your doors locked and just, do the best that you can. Unfortunately, what's happening right now, and there's now a rash in when people get their things delivered, say from Amazon or whoever, to their doorstep, and the packages are on their front porch. People are actually coming around and just walking up and stealing those packages as well. So if you do have things delivered, it might be wise if you can say, hey, deliver it to the back door or something like that. I would just be aware that people are driving by, seeing packages on people's front steps, and walking right up and taking them. I've seen a couple of videos of it, so be careful of that. And then finally, this is just floors me. The Edgewood Dollar General Store was robbed. Now, I'm telling you, if I'm going to rob something, it is not going to be the dollar store. That is just crazy to me. I mean,
Good point.
That just says I'm just the dumbest criminal. Like, that should go up in the dumbest criminal award category.
Why not rob the $20 store?
Yeah, if you're going to rob, then go for the Best Buys or go for the ones that have, more expensive equipment. Don't go to the dollar store. So,
well, and this all just points out that
criminals are stupid.
Criminals are stupid. People, their guard is down too much. Listen, we're all guilty of it. We had this. We were talking about last week about 2 weeks ago about these deception thefts, where people, crooks are asking people to get something off the shelf while their accomplice steals the person's pocketbook or wallet. It's not just happening in one part of the county. We have Forest Hill. We have Bel Air. Just be aware. Don't walk around paranoid in a shell. But
this is the time of year when people get desperate. It's the holidays. They need to either get money or presents for family members, and so they're going to be more blatant and more brazen. So.
Yeah, and we keep our garage door open a lot. I'm not going to tell you my address.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bob, not a good idea.
But you just can't do it.
No.
You just can't. Because it can happen. People leave their cars in their driveways unlocked.
Yep. I've had my car broken into twice because of that. Not where I live now, but years ago in Jarrettsville. So I'm just, again, it's one of those things that it happens. So moving on, Barry Glassman and the county council had their inauguration this week on Monday. And it was a really nice ceremony. Governor-elect Hogan was there and spoke a few words. And it was a really nice event.
It was really well done. And two things on that. First of all, full disclosure, Tracy's friend and my wife is now a member of Barry's cabinet.
Yes.
And
if you're listening, Cindy, hi.
Yeah, maybe you're listening in the office with Barry and Billy and the rest.
They're probably
of the
all
gang.
sitting around a table just riveted to what we're saying.
And just think, I could say anything right now, honey, that could embarrass you, but I won't.
But we won't, because I'm here to protect you, Cindy.
But that's the first thing. It was such a well done ceremony. It really came through with Barry that he's a genuine guy. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make mistakes. But it's not about Barry. And it's so refreshing to have an executive leading the administration, and certainly his right-hand man, Billy Boniface. It's refreshing that they really are. They're not. It's not about themselves, and I'm really encouraged by that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very nicely done. The county council. I will say though, the one thing about the county council, did you notice there was no females on it?
No females.
So
and, no Democrats anymore.
Okay, I didn't know that one, but yeah, there's no females, and so I thought, gotta work on. We gotta get some really strong women out there for that. But
Yeah,
we got a couple years to work on that one.
yeah, and I think it needs to be more diverse party wise.
Yeah. So,
it just.
but overall, it was a very good. It was nice to see everybody that showed up. It was a really good turnout. I think they said it was about 800, 900 people showed up.
And one of the most refreshing things was the governor-elect was there.
Yeah.
Now, if the other clown got elected,
what
do you think the odds are that he ever was going to set foot in Harford County?
Oh, well, yeah,
never
forget
mind
that.
come to the county executive's administration. So that felt really good.
Yeah, and here at the station we played. I interviewed Barry after the event.
Oh yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
You know, I really love the fact that he really wants to move this county into the next. I don't want to say millennium, but you know what I'm saying. He's trying to move it move it forward, and he's got some really great ideas. I really believe that he's going to give every effort to take care of those. One of the things we talked about is he wants to get rid of the rain tax, of course, which goes along with Governor-elect Hogan. So there's a chance that'll go away. Talking about the fact that we have a heroin epidemic. We're number 4 in the county, in the state, the 4th worst county in the state with a heroin problem. Again, you don't think of Harford County as one of the big drug capitals here, but unfortunately we are, especially for a nasty, nasty drug like heroin. So we talked about that. So there were some really good things that we talked about. I really am encouraged and optimistic that he's going to be, a really good county executive for the next couple, 4 years plus.
I agree.
So that was good. Now, this final thing, I'm so excited to see if this is a complete flop or a complete yay. The express toll lanes are going to be opening tomorrow for I-95, and it's not going to cost you anything until I think it's like December 13th or something like that. So you can drive it for free as much as you want to until I think December 13th. And if what I'm talking about are the lanes that you've been seeing for the last, seems like last 10 years they've been building.
Let me do my birthday math. 74 years they've been constructing that.
It's the gift that just kept giving.
Yeah.
But they finally are going to open it. It's supposed to help congestion between, the Harford County area through down to 895. I don't know if it's going to help or not. If it does, great. Who knows? So we'll see.
Well, I have a question for you on that because, first of all, I'm not a fan of the SHA because of what they did at 2495 intersection.
Oh,
the fact that was done and cost so much money and they didn't complete the Cloverleaf and that no one was fired is a disgrace to all of us. They spent over $50 million and they
stopped halfway through.
Yeah. And then they said, well, they ran out of money. Well, that's if you're in private industry and you're held accountable by your stakeholders, you don't start a project then say you ran out of money. You know how much money you're going to have. And so you do the project budget based on that.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, that is what no one got fired. I mean, 10 people would have been fired.
Oh my God, the whole staff would have been fired. I mean, it's crazy. They literally stopped basically halfway through and just said, sorry, we're done. Moving on.
But the other, now, it looks like they've done a great job on this other thing. But what is your opinion? Some people feel that having a separate lane that people can pay toll for so they don't have to go through traffic is a little bit discriminatory. Do you believe that?
I don't agree in that. But see, I'm from D.C., the D.C. area, and we had the Dulles Toll Road. We have the different toll roads down there, and I didn't have a problem with it. There was days where I could afford to be on it. There was days I could afford to not be on it. So it didn't matter. I don't see it as a discriminatory because, again, it's not going to be a ton of money. But it's meant to help those during rush hours. And it's the same type thing as an HOV type lane. Is HOV discriminatory? No. It just means that there's certain rules.
Yeah, and the New Jersey Turnpike, if you don't want to take it, you don't take it.
Exactly.
If they have a problem with this, they should have a problem with every toll.
Exactly. So no, I think that's anybody that says that is just looking for a fight that they don't have, a ground to stand on. So
amen.
So with that, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Carsonia Whitehead, who is the author of Notes from a Colored Girl, which is the Civil War pocket diaries of Emily Frances Davis. I'm really excited. I'm a huge Civil War buff. I especially love any kind of stories that are based on diaries, so you can feel and hear and just really enjoy what the person was feeling during that time. So I'm really excited about that. So we will be taking a break right now, and we will be talking to Carsonia, Dr. Carsonia.
Okay. And you're going to do the library spots live now?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
So here we go, folks. So winter's here. It's too cold to go outside exploring, so go to the Harford County Library for family fun and adventure with their winter reading program. What will your destination be this winter? How many books would you like to read to get there? Join the fun at the Harford County Public Library and register for Destination Unlimited Read Winter Reading Program beginning on January 2nd. Sign up at any branch or online at hcplonline.org, and you will receive a commemorative pen just for registering. And to finish off your travels, adults who read or listen to at least 5 books and teens who read or listen to at least 3 books can return their completed book list starting as early as January 10th. A collector's mug will be yours for completing the program, which ends March 7th. Pins and mugs available while supplies last. So registration for the winter reading program, it's easy, it's free. Sign up at hcplonline.org or walk into your Harford County Public Library branch. Completed logs can be turned in from between January 10th and March 7th, so don't miss out. Family fun and adventure. You never know what you're going to find when your destination is unlimited at hcplonline.org and the Harford County Public Library near you. Now, I'm really excited to introduce Dr. Carsonia Whitehead, who is with us here on the phone. Dr. Whitehead will be at the Aberdeen Library on December 7th at 2 p.m. to discuss her new book, which I'm really excited about, Notes from a Colored Girl, The Civil War Pocket Diaries of Emily Frances Davis. Dr. Whitehead, thank you so much for being on the phone with us today. For people out there who are not familiar with what the book is about, can you talk a little bit about who Emily Frances Davis was and how is it that you came across her diaries?
Okay. Well, Emily Frances Davis was a freeborn black woman who was born in 1839, and she grew up in and around Philadelphia. She kept pocket diaries. The ones that I found were from 1863 to 1865. It is actually only one of 5 primary sources that have been found that were written by a black woman. She was both a seamstress and a domestic, and she wrote in her diaries every single day for 3 years. And you figure these were kind of the most tumultuous years of the 19th century. January 1st, 1863 was the release of the Emancipation Proclamation. She wrote through that. She wrote through the Civil War. She wrote through the passage of the 13th Amendment, through Lincoln's assassination, and she recorded her feelings every day. These diaries were at the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, and a very good friend of mine found them in the basement, made a copy of them, and sent them to me. And once I received them and I found out after reading her diaries that they were written by a black woman, she racially self-identified at least twice in the diaries, calling herself a colored woman, I then decided to actually quit my job as a school teacher and go back and get my PhD so that I could learn how to properly work on Emily's diary.
So did you hyperventilate when you first touched these and saw them and realized what this opportunity was for you to learn and for you to share it? I mean, it must have been an amazing moment.
It was an amazing moment. I often tell people that, we have a couple of different births in our lives. Our first physical birth, and if you're religious, you have a spiritual birth. I kind of call that moment when I read the passage in the August version of her 1863 diaries where she said, "We was the only colored people in the room." I screamed and ran through the house. My son thought something had happened to Mommy. I said, "You don't know what I hold here in my hands." I said, "I'm holding the diaries from a black woman that have never been published or transcribed, that I can actually be the first person to introduce Emily Frances Davis to the world."
Oh, my God.
It was an amazing moment.
Can you imagine going back and talking to her and telling her, this is what I'm going to do? These words that you're writing in a book that you expect nobody ever to read is now a book that the whole world can read. Could you imagine what her reaction would be to that?
And I'm not sure she would be happy. I've often asked myself
That
in
is
the quiet
true.
moments. I don't know. I'm not sure if Emily Davis was writing for me, and me being the general public, or if she was writing for herself. She talks about her friends and their clothes. She complains about her boyfriend, words that she probably never wanted anyone to read. I think the bigger question that I would want to find the answer to, which I don't think I ever will, is I would like to know, how did they survive? I mean, were they passed from hand to hand? Were they in someone's attic? How 3 pocket diaries, very small diaries, survived for 150 years and then find their way into my hands? I mean, that is amazing.
That is an amazing story. And then the other thing is again, thinking back to that time, it was not common for people, especially women, to be even writing.
Not at all.
And so for
pocket diaries.
Exactly. And so then you go back and like for me, I would love to say, who taught you how to write, and who instilled this love of writing to you? Was it a family member? Is it something she just fell in love with? Like who inspired her to do it?
I think that's very exciting. At the time when pocket diaries were first introduced, they were really introduced for merchants. They were supposed to buy the pocket diaries for their wives, so the wives could record all of their activities when the husband went out to sea and how many goods he sold. Well, Emily Davis was a single woman, and she bought her own diaries. She was a student at this time at the Institute for Public Use in Philadelphia, which has since become Cheney University.
Wow.
And ICY had this pyramid program where every year that you stayed, you had to take a test to go to the next level. So for 3 years, she tested into smaller and smaller groups. So she went into the school, in my opinion, as I reconstruct her life, with this love for learning. Because why else would you commit yourself to this and then pay the money for tuition? Tuition was roughly around $5 a semester. But if you do the math, it's 17 of our dollars to every one of theirs. So how was this single woman, a domestic and a seamstress, able to make that type of money to
Absolutely.
even meet the tuition payments so that she could educate herself? She was not married. She did not have children. This was something she was pursuing for herself.
Now, have you followed up after the diaries to find out what was the rest of her life like?
Yes, I did. As I was reading through the diary, Emily mentions 2 people. Her friend Nellie. She mentions Nellie about 564 times. She has a special heart and love for Nellie. And then she mentions Vincent, her beau, about 265 times. And so every day it's something about Vincent and Nellie. And so when I got to the end of the diaries, I only had a comma there. I didn't have a period because she ends on December 31st, 1865. And so I wondered, did she go off with Vincent and get married, or did her and Nellie just decide to travel the world? In doing more research, I found her wedding certificate.
Oh, my goodness.
1866. And I was excited to find out, who did she marry. She married a man by the name of George Bastille White.
So she didn't marry Vincent.
She didn't marry Vincent. She didn't spend her life with Nellie. She married a man she never talked about. But what's interesting is that George Bastille White's father was Jacob White, who was one of the richest black men in Philadelphia. He owned the only black-owned cemetery not attached to a church in America.
Wow.
So I like to laugh and say that Emily married up. She married this rich man, this rich black man in Philadelphia. And in 1870, in the census, before in her life, Emily would put that her job was a domestic. In 1870, she put homemaker, which is akin to being a stay-at-home mother. So here she is marrying up. Now she's staying home with her 5 kids, taking care of them, and she doesn't have to work.
And I understand she did a diary in the 1870s about George always leaving the toilet seat up, never asking for directions, being a horrible diaper changer, and never taking the garbage out.
That is probably true.
And that's the diary that didn't survive. The complaints about her husband. Her diaries in 1870 about her husband are very similar to mine now. Complaining about the kids, complaining about housework, which I would love to find. I put out a call asking people, check your basements, check your attics. There's so much history there, and we need to get people's histories out of the basement and out of the attics and into the public to give us that lens we need to be able to look at that time period.
Well, and that's what one of the things I wanted we wanted to talk to you about. You know the team at the Maryland Council for the Humanities, and they do this
Yeah.
one Maryland, one book every year. Last year was this woman who, King Peggy, who became the king of
Yes.
a village in Ghana.
Yes.
And when we have everyone reading the same book, certainly reading these diaries of Emily, uh, it begin it can we can't help but have the barriers break down of understanding,
Yes.
the barriers break down of misunderstanding, where we no
Hmm.
longer view an Emily as an other. Myself as a
Right.
white middle-aged white male, I am reading things from this human's heart and mind, uh, that are the same as my human heart and mind, and as opposed to viewing her as someone 150 years away from me, a different race, a different gender, I understand, and it's going to make me harder for me to just dehumanize her.
Right.
Um, can you talk about that? Because I think that's one of the
Yeah.
most important things about what you're doing here.
I think what's important is for us to recognize and understand that people are the same. That we have the same type of struggles, we have the same type of issues, that going beyond the color of our skin or our particular gender or even our class issues, that we're all making our way through this human experience, and we're trying to find the best ways to do that. We have certain ideas about 19th century black women. We either look at them as this mass of enslaved women because we talk a lot about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, and then we have these elite black women, the Charlotte Fortons of the world. And we don't understand that there was a category in the middle, like this everyday woman. Because if you were not enslaved and if you were not rich enough to travel the world, what did you do every day? And Emily's diaries, written in her own hand, gives us this lens that we can see that. I think that's why things like the StoryCorps are so popular, and diary writing, and even doing modern day tweets and Facebook. I think these are all ways that we use to tell our stories, because what better way to make connections to people than to give them insight into your life? So even though I don't think Emily was writing for me, I am glad that someone in Emily's life chose to keep these diaries around, because she's filling that gap that has existed in the research for years now. Emily is that missing key that gives us insight to the everyday black woman. It humanizes women from that time,
Right.
and it also helps us to understand that they were more similar to us than different.
And she was writing for all of us, because
Yeah.
to hear her thoughts while she's laying in the bed in the morning before she gets up, her challenges, her regrets or
Hmm.
self recriminations about the day before, what what she was going to have to deal with that day. It's just
Hmm.
very powerful.
Now, have you had an opportunity to reach out to any of her, people that, family members, that type thing?
No, I put calls out and nobody has come forward. I keep saying I know her family didn't die off. She had 5 kids and at least one grandchild. And the book has only been out since May. So I am hopeful that as I move into the season of traveling about the book, from January 15th all the way through Women's History Month, that the more the book rises in popularity, the more people will find out about it and will begin to make those connections. It's interesting because I think the most wonderful thing about Emily's diaries for me was that I write diaries. Well, I've been keeping diaries since I was 10, and that was my challenge about publishing her work, because I know that I would write in the front of all my diaries, now I'll lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, burn my diaries before mommy takes. I did not want my diaries to survive because of what you just mentioned, those personal moments
Right.
in the morning, the regrets that you put down. I don't know if I want 150 years from now to be the Emily Davis of my time.
Yeah, it's interesting. And can you just share with us briefly what your take is? Now, we read about she's a freeborn black woman, um, uh, living in Philadelphia. 50 miles away, there's people under the lash, um,
Right.
from her. We have the white abolitionists that are that's in the 1820s and 30s that begun the battle. We have people like Frederick Douglass, who encountered something that would have broken 99.9% of other human beings. We have people later like W.E.B. Du Bois, and then people like
Right.
Lincoln, and even LBJ. Lincoln, who had a finesse what he
Right.
did, and then LBJ, who just basically bullied everyone into the Civil Rights
Right.
Act because he realized we're doing this. Um, could share a little of your thoughts on what these people, what groundbreakers they were, how brave they were, how courageous they were, in really going against the tide in so many ways.
I think it's interesting because Emily in her diaries does not talk about, nor do I think she was involved in, the everyday struggles that were taking place on the ground.
Hmm.
And this is why I say she's more similar. So she's 50 miles away or so from the lash. She probably has family members down in Maryland, because I have found that her father was enslaved in Maryland before he made his way up to Philadelphia. But she did not talk about the war every day. I think Emily, because she would be considered at this time within the black community as being middle class, she found ways to bend her privilege to be able to help to have a voice. So though she did not go down and fight, she did raise money when Frederick Douglass came to speak, and she talked about that. Or when the Hudlin singers would come to town, she would be one of the people selling tickets. If there was a lecture by an anti-slavery activist, as Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was coming and selling her poetry books, Emily was helping to sell it. She was finding ways to use her privilege. And I talk a lot about this because I think a lot about this today as an academic, that I may not go and march for Ferguson, but how can I bend my privilege to help to uplift the cause in the same ways that Emily did? That what Emily has taught me is that everybody can respond to a situation, but we have to recognize and realize where we are and use the place where we stand to help us shape our response to these situations.
Beautifully said.
We all need to be leaders.
Yes.
Well, again, it has been such a pleasure, Dr. Whitehead, and really, really looking forward to reading your book. Again, you're going to be at the Aberdeen Library on December 7th at 2 p.m. to discuss the book. It's Notes from a Colored Girl, The Civil War Pocket Diaries of Emily Frances Davis. So, Dr. Whitehead, thank you so much for talking with us, and cannot wait to get my hands on that book.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk about Emily. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Absolutely, and it's now one of ours.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So long.
All right, so don't go away, folks. When we come back, we're going to be looking over the edge at some news outside of Harford County. Plus, we get to see what thingamabobs are in store for us, thanks to our very own Bob Mumby. All right, now, folks, back to the public library. Have a little one. Studies have shown that between infancy through age 8 is the most important time in a child's early literacy development. The Harford County Public Library understands the importance with their Puppy Tales Winter Reading Program, and this is such a great program. Basically, Puppy Tales encourages participation in daily activities that strengthens pre-reading skills. So parents and caregivers can now register their children for the Puppy Tales Winter Reading Program at any of the library branches starting January 2nd. You'll receive an activity log with 20 simple but fun learning activities based on 5 of the early literacy practices. Bob, you'd love these. It's talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. Now,
It's all of my favorite things.
of course, upon completion of 12 of the 20 activities and returning the log between January 2nd and March 7th, children will receive a certificate and a special completion prize. So for more early literacy tips, please stop by any of the Harford County Public Library story times or visit hcplonline.org for more information. Again, I can't stress it enough, folks. Early literacy is so important. So hats off to the for the Harford County Public Library for that program. So, all right, Bob. I am so interested to see what kind of thingamabobs and things that we have going on. So,
well, we're going to start with a few more charities. These
now explain
scum
again.
of the earth charities.
Explain again what we're talking about with these.
You get phone calls at home. Everyone does from the Sheriff's Association, the Children's Caring Network. Please contribute. People contribute millions of dollars, And most of the time, if not all, these calls are coming from professional calling organizations that then remit a small portion of what you contribute to the charity.
And when you say small, we're talking minuscule.
Right, and I'll give you just two more names. We've been doing a few names every week. The Caring for Our Children Foundation. You give them $1,000, they give $16 to the charity.
So
1.6%.
So $16 out of $1,000 would go to the actual charity. So the other 900 and blah 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 amount goes to what? To their pockets?
Line the pockets of the Joe Smith cold calling agency.
That's just crazy.
The Children's Charity Fund, 2.3%.
Oh, good.
The Disabled Police Officers Counseling Center, 0.1%.
See, I say this every week. I still don't understand why this isn't illegal, why people don't go after these people.
Well, because they're not telling you they're giving it all to them. And if you ask them and they lie about it, that's illegal. Because I ask them now, and the answer I often get is 10 to 15%.
Right.
Goes to the charity.
You know what we should do one day, Bob? Why don't we just once a week, on the show, we'll just call some of these charities directly, and these people, and see what we can do.
I would love to do that. I want to call Kids Wish Network because they only give 2.5% of the money you give them to the kids. 2.5%. The Kids Wish Network. These people there's a special place in hell for them. I'm sorry. So when people call asking for money, don't give it to them. Find out what's the real charity.
Well, ask them questions.
Give it to them direct because then it all goes. If that, in fact, is a valid charity, you can give that to them direct.
Well, and if you think about it, if say $16 or whatever out of your $1,000, just imagine if you gave them $50, they're going to get, so much more money than if you gave $1,000 to this telemarketing firm. It's just crazy.
Exactly. It's just infuriating. And now something that is, I probably shouldn't view it as funny, but we have politicians from both parties, all shapes, sizes, ages, genders, colors, that they get over on the people. They somehow, I think of Clinton, but I don't want to get started. They somehow are Teflon.
It doesn't matter what their political party is.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter who they are.
Just some people that
it's their personality.
They get away with it.
Yeah.
I think of a lot of Teddy Kennedy, Bill Clinton, but I don't want to start arguments. We have another gentleman I put in that category.
Unfortunately, who passed away. So we have
about a week and a half ago. God rest his soul. Marion Barry, the mayor of D.C., who was elected 4 times, 2 times after a famous incident where he was caught smoking crack with a prostitute in a hotel room on New York Avenue, the Ramada Inn in D.C. And he was elected many times, and I think I could say this because he said it to a Washington Post reporter. And I'm going to give you 7 of his actual quotes.
So these are actual quotes that Marion Barry gave to reporters. So it's in print. It is not something that we're making up.
Right.
Okay.
The first thing he said, if you take out the killings, Washington, D.C. has a very, very low crime rate.
Well, that would probably be true.
When asked about his incident of getting caught smoking crack with the prostitute, his answer was, "Bitch set me up."
Yeah, it's her fault that he was smoking crack and with a prostitute. It's her fault. Typical.
He was found in a strip bar. He said, first of all, it was not a strip bar. It was an erotic club.
Oh, well, yeah,
and
there's
second,
a big difference.
What can I say? I'm a night owl.
Well, maybe he speaks to the type of people that are his constituents. Maybe
You got to admire his chutzpah.
Yeah.
Here's something else he said. People have criticized me because my security detail is larger than the president's. But you must ask yourself, are there more people who want to kill me than who want to kill the president? I can assure you there are.
Well, I will give him that one. That's a pretty good answer.
And this one, I am a great mayor. I am an upstanding Christian. I am an intelligent man. I am deeply educated. I am a humble man.
Yeah, obviously not.
And his last one, what right does Congress have to go around making laws just because they deem it necessary?
Okay, see, that just speaks to the ignorance of them. That's just crazy. But it does. It goes back to the. Can you imagine, Bob? He was elected 2 more terms after doing crack with a prostitute.
Yep.
In what world is that just okay? It floors me. Is it that they just didn't have other people that could come up against him?
I just think it's that, some people, they just are able to create that Teflon coating. They're able to foster in their supporters this idea that they are doing so many good things in so many different areas that anybody tries to hate on them for their personal failings is just being a hater. Wow. So they sort of coax and hypnotize their followers into ignoring anything they do that's wrong.
It just floors me. But if nothing else, he gave us good information to talk about today.
Now, let me ask you this. This is from a Dear Amy. And I thought this was an excellent question the person asked, and I had to think about it, and I think it's good advice. So what would you do? This woman writes in, I hosted dinner once a year for a group of friends. One of the couples in our group told us they have bed bugs in their house. They are not doing anything about it. They move the furniture away from the wall and seem to think that's all they need to do. I'm terrified to have someone bring bed bugs into my house. I don't know what to do. How do I get out of having the dinner at my house? I don't want to hurt their feelings or make a big deal in front of all their friends. Please help with the solution.
My solution would be I would suggest having it at a restaurant or something separate and not have it in your house. That would have been my suggestion, but or give them for Christmas. Give them some bed bug spray.
Well, yeah, but clearly you do something about it.
Yes.
She actually asked an etymologist, which is a expert on insects, and the etymologist said people can transfer bed bugs on their clothing, on their bags, their shoes, or coats. If someone has a bed bug problem at home they're not addressing, they'll probably end up with bed bugs in their clothing. It is negligent not to deal with them responsibly. It's like having the flu. You have a responsibility to try not to transmit to other people. Amy's advice is your friends were open about their bed bug problem. You should be open with them about the consequences and say, I'm extremely afraid of a bed bug infestation. I'm very sorry, but I don't think you should come to our house until you've definitely eradicated the problem at your house. And then she said you might want to meet for a cookout at a local park instead of hosting.
Well, I think in that situation, though, you have to decide what's more important. Is the friendship more important, or how important is the friendship? I guess is what I'm saying. Because I hear what they're saying, which is you address it with them. But let's be honest, people, if you come to me and Bob and say, I don't want you coming to my house because you got bed bugs, I'm not going to be a very big fan of yours. Even though I might understand and appreciate where you're coming from, I'm still going to get defensive. So I think having it in this situation, I would just have suggested, plan on this year. We decided not to have it at the house. We decided we wanted to not have to cook this year. Let's go to a restaurant or maybe go to somebody else's house.
But I think you're helping them if you tell them, if you're frank with them, because if they come to your house or go to someone else's house and they cause an infestation, and then the person who was infested finds out that these people knew about it, they're going to lose these people as friends forever. So you're helping them if they have a blind spot about this.
It's definitely a hard conversation. That's for darn sure.
Well, we could do another hard conversation or save that till next week.
No, we've got a couple minutes. Let's go ahead and do another hard conversation.
Okay. Dear Amy, and we don't have to, I just liked her answer.
And where did you find Dear Amy?
Dear Amy is like Dear Abby. It's in the newspaper.
Newspaper, okay.
And actually, a few weeks ago, I saw one that I liked, and I went to a website, her website, and found her greatest hits, some of the things that people really enjoyed.
Right.
So, Dear Amy, several years ago, a coworker I was friendly with suggested that we get together on the day off and bar hop, shoot some pool, and drink some beer. We met at a bar we both knew about and then left in his car. He said he needed to stop by his house for something and invited me in. Well, inside, and with no warning, he proceeded to backhand his wife across the mouth in front of his 2 small children.
Holy cow.
His daughter burst into tears, and his son looked like he wanted to kill him. I was dumbfounded. As my mind raced through the options, I couldn't decide what to do. I could have beat him to a pulp, frankly, spoken up, walked out of his house, but the fact remained that he would again see his wife and kids without me or anyone else around him. Then what? I also would have to see this so-called man at work. I did nothing and acting like everything was fine the remainder of the day, but then declined all further invitations to spend time with him. To this day, I don't know what I should have done differently.
Oh, it's so simple. And but then again, in my opinion, you basically reach out to, here in Harford County, we have SARC, which is spousal, it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, stalking, that type of an organization. And you reach out to somebody like that and you ask them for advice. I know of the situation. This is what I saw personally. How do I best help them? Walking away and pretending like it doesn't exist is not helping anybody, and at the end of the day, it can make things worse because you don't know if the next time he might kill her. And so I think it's negligent to walk away and do nothing. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying you need to confront him. I can appreciate it from that standpoint, but there are organizations in every county and every state that are specifically there to help people in those situations. And shame on you if you don't have the chutzpah, the huevos, or whatever you want to call it, to go out there and help other people. Yeah, I have no respect whatsoever for people like that walk away and do nothing. So that's a very simple one for me.
Well, but it's not something like it's simple for you because you've thought about it, and this is something that you're very thoughtful about, and you're rightfully attuned to. But this person doesn't seem
intelligent.
Yeah, I just don't think they don't have much of a spine. But
no.
There's a lot of people out there that probably would freeze at that point, and her
and I can see that.
Go ahead.
I can see freezing at that point. I can see walking away that day and not saying anything to him or to anybody else. But at the end of the day, after a night or two, you have to sit and think to yourself, okay, if I was in that situation, would I want somebody to help me or would I want somebody to turn their back on me?
Frankly, it requires everyone to step up, just like with Penn State.
You have to step up, yes.
People, these supposedly good people that knew this was going on with Jerry Sandusky, and didn't say anything, they're just as bad as him. People that knew that this kid at the University of Virginia on the lacrosse team was a drunken, violent maniac and didn't do anything about it or hold him accountable, and then he killed Yardley Love.
Nope. I have no patience understanding for people that turn a cheek and not pay attention.
So she says the sheer audacity of the man who would strike his wife in front of his kids and a visitor is an indication of how arrogant and dangerous he is.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you were caught completely off guard, and given all the circumstances you mentioned, you were paralyzed. Being this man to a pulp in front of his family exposes everybody to an unacceptable level of trauma, but you could and should have reacted by yelling, "Whoa, hey, what the hell, stop it." The reason to do this is so this man's wife and young children, especially his son, could see another man standing up and expressing, "This is unacceptable, this is not right, this is not how men should behave." Instead, what the children witnessed was the worst combination of human behavior, their father's brutality and another man's silent passivity.
Yeah.
At the first chance, you should have called the police and/or hotlined him by calling the local Department of Children's Services and reporting the violence. I have received many heartbreaking testimonies from adults who witnessed domestic violence and/or were abused themselves as children and realized that other adults were aware of it and did nothing.
Absolutely.
Frankly, this seems like a time when seeing Dad taken out of the home in handcuffs might have been a good thing for all involved.
Amen to that. So,
Alrighty.
Well, there you go. And again, if people know anybody out there that is having this kind of a situation, please, here in Harford County, reach out to SARC. They're an amazing organization that does so much good.
They really are.
They have safe houses. They have counseling. They have all kinds of things to help not only those that are going through it personally, but to help those that know people that are going through it. So please reach out to them. And
we're going to do one funny thing, one line before you do the announcement so we can get on the funny note. A dwarf who was a mystic escaped from jail. The call went out on the APB that there was a small medium at large.
Okay. I like that one, actually. That's pretty funny. All right, so quick thing going on. There's lots of things going on in Harford County this weekend. Unfortunately, our time is almost to an end, so I'm going to talk about on Sunday, December 7th, the Bel Air Christmas celebration will be taking place at a Cortlandt Street. Concert begins at 2:45 p.m., and then the parade will be kicking off at 3:30. You'll see floats, marching bands, Santa, and so much more. You'll even see me standing up on the stage as the MC, so stop by and say hi to me.
Ho.
Exactly. And then immediately following the parade, which is my favorite thing, is there'll be seasonal music music, a big bonfire. Loved it last year. Caroling, hot chocolate, cookies, and Santa Claus in Shamrock Park.
Will there be cake and eggnog?
No, but it'll be hot chocolate and cookies.
Okay.
Still pretty yummy.
I'm sold.
Again, it's all free. They'll also have the tree and the menorah lighting. So if you want more information, visit bellairmd.org. Again, it's a great event. Bring the family. It's just a fun event. You can bring your dogs. You can bring anybody. So with that said, that's about all the time we have here for Harford Edge. Want to thank you for listening. Talk to you next week.